У нас следующий ключевой спикер – это Дмитрий Петрович Гавра, and he's going to speak in English, if I get it right. Hello.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, we can hear you. I hope we can hear you. And the topic of the performance is new power relations and the digital attention economy as a challenge to the place brand management. And you are welcome to start. I just want to remind you that you have 15 minutes for the report and hopefully 5 minutes to ask questions and to respond to them.
Okay, so do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm afraid I'll have about 18 minutes still for the presentation and perhaps 2 or 3 for the questions. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Tomsk State University and Professor Golozhinsky and Professor Sagan for the wonderful opportunity, well, to present this topic at your wonderful conference. And now I'm going to start. So, the history of the competition of cities for resources is not shorter than the history of the urban format of the special organization of social life. The rivalry between Athens and Sparta in ancient times, Rome and Avignon in the Middle Ages, Saint Petersburg and Moscow in the glorious years of the Russian Empire was always associated with conscious or unconscious attempts to redistribute resources of 3 types: high-status residents, capital investments, and temporary visitors, merchants, pilgrims, later tourists. Today, these components are associated with 3 dimensions of the external image of the modern city: for residents and migrants, investors, and tourists. It can be said that the paradigm of territorial marketing itself does not change in its substantive meaning, but conditions and technologies of its implementations are changing. The latter are determined by the current civilization Khrushchev. For a long time, standing block borders on one hand and low speed of communication on the other were restraints of competition between large cities. In the mid-20th century, Vienna was a tourist or investment destination, and it could not compete with Budapest like Leningrad, for example, with Stockholm or Bangkok. As a financial center, London did not compete with Singapore or Shanghai. Modernity is changing the configuration of the challenge for effective communication in an urbanized location, especially if the latter pretends to be called an extra big city, a modern megapolis. Let us single out the most important macro factors that are at the beginning of the 21st century has launched the process of the competitive space transformation for large cities. The discourse of the special literature of recent years, both branding and economic geographic, is built around the dynamics of the communication sphere, and today we are discussing this subject: the innovation of social web, wiki resources, mobile applications, etc. It's true, but it's not the full truth. The macro factors determining this transformation are undoubtedly wider and more complicated. In our point of view, in the more general form, here we can speak of 3 groups. You see them on the screen of factors. First is transformation of the global paradigm of civilizational confrontation. Secondly, glocalization in all the many valued contradictions of this process. And finally, thirdly, there is the digital interactive revolution and the social web generated by it. We would attribute the first macro factor mainly to the political sphere, the second to the economical one. Only the third is of communication nature, both technological as applied to the city communication tools and psychological as applied to changing the audience communication behavior. Indeed, the third one, the factor of communicative revolution, is a macro factor that transforms all the components of the territory's communication. It is extremely important and opens a whole range of fundamental new opportunities for the city branding. The second factor, glocalization, is also not overlooked in the discourse of territorial branding, regional studies, and regional PR. Much less attention is paid to the role of the political civilizational macro factor. Meanwhile, in practice, it is shown that political macro factor, in many cases, determines the positive or negative dynamics of the megacity reputation for significant external audiences. We presume that the corresponding political macrofactor is determined by the transformation of the basis axis of the civilizational conflict in the modern globalized society. During almost the entire 20th century, it was the axis of the conflict between the world of socialism, led by the USSR, and the world we denoted conditionally anti-communism, led by the United States. Now the axis of the conflict lies in confrontation between the Western-based understanding of freedom and progress embodied in the modern Euro-Atlantic technological civilization and traditionalism, and even ultra-conservatism largely linked to the passionate radical Islamism. Although not only with him, this dangerous axis passes straight through the modern global metropolitan areas and global cities. The demand for a cheap labor force and generates migration flows that lead to the formation of ethnically homogeneous traditionalist enclaves in large cities. The melting pot stops working. Multiculturalism, as the liberal hope of politicians, ethnologists, and urbanists of the second half of the 20th century, remains only on the pages of the textbooks. And what happens in practice can be seen in the evening Paris, London, and now the Moscow subway, or in the suburbs where migrants live, compactly, explicitly demonstrating the absence of any movement towards cultural relativism, and even more so towards real integration. The authorities of megacities, for the most part, understand the situation, but do not always understand how to solve existing and moreover future problems. But at the same time, as a rule, this problem is hidden for academic scholars of city branding and territorial marketing. The information flows generated by the official structures of megacities for all three major groups of external target audiences, investors, tourists, and capital-intensive potential residents, as a rule ignores the indicated problem. But on the other hand, it is presented in the informal web discourse, in social network, the blogosphere, Telegram channels, and YouTube, and also, of course, in the media space, and most often in the most image unfavorable content sections, criminal news, and the chronicle of incidents. This generates not yet fully realized marketing and image risks for megacities as objects of territorial branding. And it is obvious that the problem would never be solved by silencing or by means of only branding or marketing or even communication technologies. Megacities have to solve these issues in reality, on the merits, implement migrant adaptation programs, prevent territorial segregation, work with diasporas, identify positive leaders and punish negative ones, apply special police measures, etc. But at the same time, it's difficult to overestimate the importance of communication programs for hedging designated political risks. On the agenda is not only the communication of territorial institutions with stakeholders, but creations of conditions for the self-organization of stakeholders in a communicative space of a megacity to promote its brand. Moreover, the social web creates the necessary conditions for it. Coming back to the most important group of macro factors, we should first of all designate the features of the informational space of the last 5 years, causing a new challenges to territorial branding. And here we see the feature of the new informational space. I'm not going to read everything from the screen, but still we see that it is transposing the roles of traditional and non-traditional speakers. It is already impossible to manage it through the power vertical from top to the bottom. So it is global, local, and individual simultaneously, interactive and capable of generating web waves, both positive and negative. And what new should be discussed in this respect? Our position is that the most important factor in the change of territorial branding is the social and political transformation towards communication network society. The digitalization of the social power relations. And cities that does not understand this subject will lose in the global competition. I'll consider the transformation of power and domination formats from the position of political economy of attention, one of the directions of the modern critical digitalism. Here we rely on the authors shown on the screen. These theories are in general trying to understand what is going on. And here are our main theoretical basis connected with Jodi Dean with her concept of communicative capitalism, Klaus Vogt with the digital labor, and Dennis Mamba with the new types of human organization. Let us start with the economy of the attention and the challenges for the city branding they are presenting. The internet is a space for fierce competition for attention. Every user who wants to be successful in digital environment tries to attract the attention of other users to his digital track, a blog, a community, or even a separate post, photos, videos, Telegram channels. For a limited amount of time, a user can perform a limited number of mediated communication on the web. Attention of the user becomes the basis for competition and cooperation on the so-called attention market, which is divided into nodes, sections of the network. The audience rewards the most interesting content on various parts of the network with this attention, thereby increasing their symbolic use value. In turn, these rewards in the aggregative give the value of another type, the exchange one, the market one. In other words, a network site that has attracted attention is valuable in economic terms for market participants, owners of the other sites, cities, regions, countries, big businesses, political and media groups. The possibility to capitalize attention generates intricate relations involving internet users, opinion leaders, businesses, and political actors, then cities, regions, and even governments. In turn, the process of commercialization of the network environment are aimed not only at encouraging users to direct financial transactions, but also at retaining their attention and further converting it into political, economic, and cultural influence. The territory, the city being represented in the network in different communicative statuses on different platforms, competes for attention in asymmetrical communicative space. Without understanding the essence of this asymmetry and the typology of the most important players, the successful functioning of an urban brand in the network is impossible. In this regard, we turn to some aspects of the network power stratification. Here is the picture explaining our approach to the network power stratification. For the city, for the region, we distinguish a number of power actors in the space of economy of attention. And the necessary brand of the city, region has to win the struggle for influence on these power actors. Here they are, you see it on the screen. Traffic monopolists, network elites, and network brands. The city has to communicate and to work with all relevant digital power actors in order to turn itself into a successful and influential network brand. Let us consider these actors in a more detailed way. First of all, let us start with the local traffic monopolists, Web 3.0 prosumers. I invented a new term, a new word. I name them profesumers, professional prosumers. So traffic monopolists. The second half of the last decade on the web have marked the transition from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 concept, when the quality of content and services is enhanced by not only by increasing the number of users, but also by increasing the competence of individual participants. Any user who controls and owns a segment of the network can draw attention to his product. However, the users who constantly produce a professional product become local monopolists of traffic. By investing knowledge, skills, and other resources in the development of their network sites, these prosumers became professionals. I name them digital prosumers, professional prosumers, and acquire a special type of social capital that then invested in the process of digital branding of the owned network area, site, or account. Thus, on the web segment, there are local traffic monopolists who become professionals due to social capitalization. Some of them get the opportunity to enter the network elite, the next stage, the next level, the network elite, which becomes an elite when it starts to influence stronger, forming values and patterns of behavior. And this is the next level of power digital actors to integrate into the process of the city or territorial branding. It occurs when a part of traffic monopolists organizes virtual communities develop certain rules and even codes, and also distribute these values to their audience. In this case, they become the network elite, digital opinion makers, those whose opinion is listened to by the audience both on agenda items in process of everyday consumption of digital content. And then come the third level. These are online brands, or as I call them, network brands. Both business and territorial actors, cities, regions, countries interested in being presented in the network space, create network projects aimed at intensive promotion. Network areas of these projects clearly have a marketing component. As a result, appear new power actors, online brands or network brands. They can be either virtual reference points of an organization, territory, or even a public person, or have a purely digital origin. A network brand has a specific communicative strategy and clear property rights. A network brand, being a virtual referent of an organization, territory, city, or person, concentrates the audience attention. In any case, the goal of such brands is the loyalty of the audience, the maintenance of awareness and reputation, and further the formation of behavioral patterns in relation to the offline product underlying the network, including patterns aimed at increasing the social and direct capitalization of the city or of the region. And in this regard, the city is also able to become a network brand. Note, any successful region, city, network, actor, or project may have one another characteristic combining, for example, features of the traffic monopolist and a network brand. Thus, as foreseen by Manuel Castells, in the conditions of the developed attention economy, appear new network formats of power and domination. In this case, we can talk about the redistribution of resources affecting the social capitalization of territories from exclusively institutional actors, governors, mayors' offices, or city administrators, to decentralized players, territorial stakeholders. It means that a unique situation for producing the communication synergy of stakeholders is formed especially in megacities, with high smartphone penetration and the concentration of social network users. And the question is in building up the correct architecture of the communicative space of a megacity, transactional. It is transactional architecture of the megacity stakeholders among themselves with external audiences and city managers that creates new opportunities for solving place blending tasks. If this turns out, the social capitalization of the territory grows and the regional collective world, a coal world, is formed exactly according to the scheme distributed by Clay Shirky. Groups of people, residents, NGOs, activists, Greens, members of interest communities, etc., begin their communication with a simple exchange of information. It's the stage of sharing. Then they move to a cooperation stage, then collaboration, and finally the collectivism stage begins. At every turn, the amount of coordination increases. In conclusion, I am going to conclude. In conclusion, we noted that any modern territory for the formation and optimal branding strategies cannot do without communicative logistics. Communicative logistics, as I tried to determine it, is an activity on the effective distribution of information flows between social actors in order to achieve communicative synergy of the allocated city stakeholders. For the modern metropolis, for the modern micro big city or metropolitan area, communicative logistics is a key direction in the implementation of marketing and branding strategies in a highly competitive environment. And here are the main principles: open architecture, flexibility and adaptability, public-state partnership in the development and implementation, openness of project procedures to the public, stakeholder engagement, and new power actors engagement. Thank you for your attention.
I have a short question. We are on the schedule, but still I cannot help asking it. New power relations. There is a saying that new ideas cannot be born in old environment. What about new power relations? Can they be carried out by the old generation of authorities, old generation of politicians? If yes, wonderful. If not, when do you think the situation will change? When will we have this, line between the old paradigm of these relations and the new one?
That's really a wonderful question concerning, the ability of today's city managers, city administrations, regional authorities to acquire these new laws and new rules of the game. I'm not sure that today in big cities we are already prepared for this kind of new power relations. We need some kind of generation shift, and it means exactly that the cities and the metropolitan areas need to invite bloggers, people from Telegram channels to become some kind of the managers of their communications. This is my understanding of what is going on.
Thank you very much. Irina Petrovna wants to say a couple of words.
Дмитрий Петрович, по-русски, маленькая просьба. Спасибо большое. Ваш видеодоклад на английском, он будет на нашем сайте потом, да, в записи. Если можно, русский текст вашего выступления для русскоязычной аудитории, мы были бы вам очень признательны. Спасибо еще раз.
Разумеется, я его пришлю, если нужно, пришлю статью. Спасибо, Ирина Петровна.
Thank you. Спасибо большое, Дмитрий Петрович. До новых встреч. Надеемся увидеть вас в следующий раз. Конечно, можно будет все материалы найти на наших сайтах, на нашем сайте и на YouTube-канале. До свидания. Привет из Сибири. Мы вам напишем обязательно.